Hi, I'm Christian Guzman, and I approve of the Board Shorts and Banter podcast.
What is good, people? And welcome back to the Board Shorts and Banter podcast. Today, we have a very, very, very special episode and a special guest. And we've got Miss Steff Noble, President, El Presidente of the WNBF UK to join us. So pretty much boss lady. So anyone that is listening, I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe have competed with the WNBF or maybe will be competing with the WNBF. Basically, you got to be nice to Steff. I'm joking. So, Steff, give us a bit of an intro into yourself in regards to who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't think I've had an intro on a podcast as boss lady yet, so that probably tops them all. So, first one in the books. Yeah, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. I love what you're doing, and I think more conversations are needed across the board. And this is obviously why I think jumping on here and having a good chat with you both. I know, obviously, both from WNBF. Josh probably a little bit more so, but Tom, obviously seen you up on stage. So
Steff only talks to people that win, Tom. Sorry, mate. It's nothing personal.
Yeah, I understand. That's fine.
I'll be nice to you today, Tom. Just for
I've got a medal, but it's just black. It's not gold. Yeah, it is what it is.
It's not that. No,
yeah,
no.
There it is. There it is, indeed. I know. It's a special one, that one. Yeah, so quick introduction, really. Yep, you guys have called it. I'm the WNBF UK president, and I've been now running the UK Federation for this will be our 5th year coming in. So I cannot believe where that time has gone and how, rapidly we've grown. And obviously, with the ever-changing environment that we're in, just always keeping our ear to the ground, listening to people, listening to community, trying to make it as enjoyable an experience for natural athletes to come and start their journey with what I'm most passionate about, to get to the WNBF Pro status or British champion status or even world status as well. So, the WNBF holds a massively, I would say, special place in my heart because it's something I went for myself and achieved in 2019. And then that transferred me over to the promoter head, where I got an opportunity to take this on and start, the ball rolling in where I thought there was an opportunity in natural bodybuilding in the UK to step up and start to actually mirror what the open side of the sport get in the game. So that's kind of how all the WNBF stuff started for me. As for just me, I've been a competitor since 2012. I've got a pro card in DFAC and WNBF. And I've got 3 British championships with UK DFBA, NPA, and BNBF and WBF. So, yeah, I've got a resume behind me, which has given me a platform to now feed back into the sport the best way I can see fit. Yeah, so hopefully that gives a bit of a background.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I've just realised and remembered as well that you are our first female guest that isn't my fiance.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Congratulations.
Picking it up for the girls over here.
Yeah, we're episode 90.
We're losers. We don't have girls on.
No.
Well, hopefully I can plug the gap a little bit here.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you say, you've been the president now for, is this your 5th year now?
Yes, this is our 5th year. Mm-hmm.
Wowza. And obviously over that time, there's been quite a large amount of growth in terms of, competitor numbers, the actual size of the shows. Can you remember roughly how many competitors did the first ever WNBF UK show?
Yeah. The very first one was 72 competitors, which for our first show, by the way, for us was this is great. That was still wild for the first year. So yeah, we've come a long way since then. And that was only one show. Now we've got, of course, the 2 across the board. So
yeah, that show was obviously the show that I won my pro card. Mm-hmm. And looking back, now I think, crikey, I got lucky to have won my pro card when I did. But in the same show, Samuel Hartman that won. Did he win? Okay, yeah, he won the Worlds, didn't he, this year?
Yeah, he was world champion this year. He took his pro card on our very first Supernatural stage in the UK. So that was a pretty cool moment. And to be honest, that show, even caliber, yourself, Josh, we hit the ground running with such a high standard of athletes straight out the gate. I was kind of anticipating that because I follow natural bodybuilding like you guys. I love this game. I follow everyone in the UK. I'm keeping my eye to the ground on, up and coming athletes, really long time athletes as well who keep coming back and getting better. So I was pretty excited about it because I knew the standard, and you guys see it as well. UK has a standing for natural bodybuilding, and we're well known globally for the standard coming out of the country. So we started off well, but I've always remained humble. Like I never expect any one year almost to get bigger than it is. I know it sounds bonkers, but I never want to lose sight of the quality of what we run for the sake of the numbers that are coming in. And that's a big part of our strategy this year off the back of what was a beast last year, which I'm sure we'll touch on. Yeah.
Yeah, last year was a beast. How many people competed at the Supernaturals last year?
So that was around 264 entries, but by the time we got the 10% drop off, which is usually what you get through Reg, it was roughly around 248, I think.
Insane.
Around that. Yeah. It was wild.
1,000 people on stage. Wild.
Yeah. And it was great, but it was like the kind of tipping point for us in terms of not just like the federation, but as a business model as well. Like, from the theatres, the venue, it was just like, okay, we can't use Crescent anymore. It's like, we had to go through the pains of it and go through that event to sort of think, okay, the next jump up, which is reinvesting, putting all, obviously what came in from last year back into this year. What can we do to improve? Breaking our back to try and get the 2-day event, which is now going to be this year. And just thinking, how can we level up the events from an exposure point of view, a production point of view? How can we make sure that the audience experience is as good as the athletic experience on stage? Just thinking of all of the angles on which we can reinvest and make sure that we listen to some of the feedback and some of the pain points last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're now concentrating on. So yeah, it's been a huge journey from Supernaturals 1 to Supernaturals 4, and this will be our 5th, of course, going into 25. 5 for 5, as I call it, 25 for 5.
Very crazy.
So, Josh, did you compete at the first Supernaturals?
I did, yes.
Okay, got you. Interesting. But it's still a federation that's so in its infancy. Like to be the 5th Supernaturals now, that's really not a long time at all. And I feel like even like last year, for instance, with that show, obviously with how many people entered, it's like, I'm sure, I don't exactly know what goes into like obviously organising a bodybuilding show. It must be absolute mayhem, but stuff like that gets booked well in advance. So for you to have that kind of build up and the growth of the federation, how many people are going to be entering the show, it's like, it's already booked. So if 250 people have entered it, it's like, what can you do? It's very hard, I'd imagine, to change things around a couple months before a show when everything is set in stone, So it's a good problem to have, really.
It is, but you've kind of nailed it. And, if I could have moved that venue, I would have. And I actually did try because, just to give you guys insight as well, I know every country is different and I've got a very global perspective of this stuff. But in the UK, you're talking, like I've got 26 venues booked now. So you really want to be ahead of the game by about a year or 2 years, really. And once you get your foot in the door with a venue, you have to build trust and relationship with the venue, right? And then you have to say, okay, you guys have run 1 or 2 events with us. Now they trust us. Now they can give us a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan. But when you're just starting out, like with, say, the Grove Theatre last year, we had to meet them, run the event, figure out, again, the issues that might be caused, and make sure we built trust with them to show them that, we're a federation that can be trusted, we're an event that can be trusted, and then we can start to go into booking out much further down the line. But you're right. I mean, you need to have these venues locked in, and then, if there's any problems, a little bit like, okay, we didn't foresee maybe the uptake for Supers last year to the volume, there's just no moving it. You can't do anything. Like, there's no venues. On every single weekend in the UK now, there's often 2 or 3 shows. There's a show on every single weekend. There is, I think there's 9 natural federations this year putting out shows. And then you've got all of the open events as well. So you've got, it's insane. So, I'm fighting for venue space but also trying to remain unique with the venues that I'm choosing, because I don't want to just kudos to PCA, but I don't want to just have a town hall and that's it. Like, I want to have venues where I can upscale to show new kind of, just have a new experience, like with the event. So the Grove Theatre has now kind of, really given us a lot more leeway, and we've been a lot more able to kind of plan in advance. So I'm feeling a wee bit more settled about that.
Do you know, you've just touched upon it there, with there being so many natural federations in the UK, do you think that is a positive for natural bodybuilding, or do you think it's actually the opposite and it may end up actually, I don't know, slowing down the growth or dampening the quality? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think it's like a question, it's like every year the landscape changes, like it shifts, and I'll come into the start of the year like with my strategy head on and go, okay, we've got this new edition or this new show or this is happening over here, and how would that impact the event? Do I see it as a negative that there's more events? No, I think that there is, my one, and the whole reason I do this is to promote natural bodybuilding. So the more and more people that have access points into the sport and are actually learning about it, that's like our mission starting to build. We're starting to be seen, and what I've always wanted for natural bodybuilding is like, we're seen as like, it's legitimate, great bodybuilding. It's fantastic to be a part of. And with the opening of more natural shows, we just have an ability to reach a ton more people that maybe weren't focusing over on our side for a little while. So they're starting to see now what's available to them. So then, they see WNBF, they see what we're about, they see the longevity we've had in the sport, they see the testing, and then you guys have done it yourselves. The community and the natural community is so tight, and we know like our circuit, we know our system, we know how the drug testing works, and we all almost kind of are looking out for key things in a natural show that are legitimately natural, right? So more people are going to start to learn what that looks like, and will vote with their feet on the stages that they believe will be truly natural. That's what I believe. So I think it's a good thing, essentially. Yeah.
It's like, if you think about like anyone that like gets into bodybuilding, even if it's like enhanced, like what's the goal? It's like IFBB, but like people that are enhanced, they start off maybe at like smaller shows, PCA, yada yada yada. That's the kind of entry point, but everyone wants to kind of filter towards the IFBB. And for natural bodybuilding, if everyone's got like a good entry point with some smaller kind of federations, and then filter towards the WNBF, as you say, I don't think it like water it down. I think it's probably only going to elevate it, so long as like even for like WNBF, so long as it's like creme de la creme, the top dog, then it's only going to benefit it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like with every upside, there's a flip side, right? There's always going to be like another side to it. And with the opening up of more shows, does it saturate a little bit? Yeah, it does. It means that probably, I feel for the athlete, if I'm honest, because the athlete has to make decisions financially. They have to decide where they want to compete. They have to decide which ones are more valuable to them. They've got to, make more plans. And then, of course, more shows means more stress on the body. It means potentially longer preps. So it's making the athlete's decision harder. And I think like that's like, you guys are probably thinking this yourselves, like, where do I go? What do I compete in? All of those kinds of questions.
That was me in 2020, 2023. I'll just do all of them.
Yeah. And we've probably all done that, right? At some point where you've done back-to-back shows and you look back on that and go, Jesus Christ, like, why did I do that to myself? By the end you might have had a really good successful run of it, but by the end of it, you might be pretty wiped out. So, WNBF, like we've got a very good standing in the natural bodybuilding community. And I'm not biased when I say this because I've done it myself. I'm obviously a little bit now because I've seen the workings, but I truly believe that if you want to test yourself as a natural bodybuilder, WNBF and getting to the top of the tree is where it's at. There's nothing else that compares to it. From doing it myself, from going to the Worlds multiple times, from seeing the caliber of athletes, there's no other natural worlds like the WNBF Worlds. It could improve in lots of different ways, yes, but in terms of the actual standard of athlete on stage in every single division, it's ridiculous. Like, it just is. And you guys have seen it, yeah? And I think we can see that across all of the affiliates worldwide now as well. It's just the entry points for WNBF across globally are taking those best teams, best athletes up to the top of the tree. And that's why I really back the WNBF for its standards and its drug testing. So,
How many affiliates are there worldwide now? Do you know?
63, I believe.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
So it's all, yeah, and I mean, we've been around a long time. So this will be the 36th year of WNBF, and more affiliates are coming in every day. But really, the kind of focus is on collaborating and building really strong relationships across the global network.
Yeah.
And you'll probably have seen a bit more of that as over the last little while. And every single affiliate really kind of maximizing what's coming into their affiliate, so from a promoter standpoint, what's coming in and how can we utilize that to make the events better.
Yeah, as an athlete that obviously competes with the WNBF, it's so nice to see that the affiliates aren't just kind of resting on the WNBF's reputation globally. They're almost very positively competing with each other to put on the best shows. Mm-hmm. It's really it's crazy, and it's great to see as an athlete that there's so many different stages that you could step on globally and just have an amazing experience, have amazing backdrops, the standard big class, and also have that same testing procedure throughout. Mm-hmm. We've got the Supernaturals, that's a men's physique pro show. Obviously, this year it's going to be a 2-day show. There's going to be no issues at all when it comes to duration of the show.
100%, Josh.
Yeah. Touch wood. Bloody hell.
Well, I'm so hell bent on it that it will be as good as it will possibly be.
Yeah, it's going to be done at 3:30 p.m. this year, just to work out an average.
Will men's physique still be the last class though, because it's not really bodybuilding?
Well, because we're doing it over 2 days, I'm going to say that last isn't a thing anymore. So pro show is going to be the factored into it having its due time on stage, and we'll be making sure that the pros are given a lot more kind of, I would say, VIP treatment when we come to the strategy, when we're structuring where the classes are going to go. So
yeah,
because as a pro, and I feel like this too, you don't want to have to wait all the way to the end. But it's unfortunately something we have to do sometimes because of course, the athletes coming from the amateurs into the pro ranks. Yeah. But we're going to play around with that. So yeah, so that there's some understanding of it.
Josh, I'm picturing you this year walking in, sitting down in a chair, pedicure, the whole the VIP treatment.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to be walking in anywhere, mate. I'm going to have people carrying me.
Oh, yeah.
Or in a wheelchair.
There's canapes with little kind of squares bars on there for your carb up. That's going to be great.
Pink Himalayan salt just floating around.
Here, Tom. You're giving me some good ideas.
I'm full of them. Mate. Maybe my goal isn't to become a pro, it's to work behind the scenes,
Yeah, no, you want to be the canapé kid.
That's it, just walking around.
Feeding me.
You volunteered for that role now, so...
That's it, I'm done. I'm in.
Have you started working out the logistics for the show this year?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the first timers and novice, of course, in June. So all the kind of major focus at the moment for me is on that, and I've got a pretty good understanding of what we're going to do with Supernaturals, but because it's 2-day, again, it's something a little bit new. It's new for me to run a 2-day event. So, in my head at the moment, amateurs mainly Saturday, and maybe a few amateurs on the Sunday, with pros being the main event, so that we've got a really good synergized process throughout, which makes sense,
Yeah.
So we're just looking at kind of the timings and also what we think is reasonable as a finish time, and plugging the gap with, there was a lot of time lost for other things in the last show, even just stuff like moving on and off stage prizes, getting things in place. We had some international judges that took longer than, and it's just a process of kind of working through that sort of stuff, which is all fine. It's just finding our way to acknowledge it and then get better. That's essentially it. Yeah.
Yeah. The first time as novice show, is that a 1-day event or is that 2? I can't remember off the top of my head.
That is a 1-day event. Yeah. So that'll be the 7th of June. And that's going to be the Sunday, and that's at Grove Theatre as well. So that will be a full 1-day, and that all went really well. And there's a really crucial thing there as to why it did as well, is because of the venue size. Josh, you saw, obviously, it's huge. It's beautiful. Luton, but the venue, absolutely ace. And
Oh
it's
God, we had an experience there, didn't we, Josh?
Yeah, we did.
I
So
think everyone did.
I think we need to book our accommodation pretty soon, Tom, because if we end up staying where we stayed last time, I'm not going to be impressed with you, mate.
You can book it this time.
Fine.
Google Street View as well. Wherever you book, Google Street View it.
It's a must.
Yeah. But the venue is awesome. And I think that was the real selling point of that. And the feedback I got from that event was ace. So, but the key thing was the size. See, just the flow of traffic, the flow of people through a venue counts for so much time and so much kind of energy in the space. People just can just accept and sort of move in the space a lot better. So I think, I think that will be all right.
When you became the WNBF president of the UK, did you anticipate some of the things that, I guess when you're getting into it, you just never know, do you? You think, it's just going to be fun, putting on shows, it's going to be great. I can imagine like some of the stress involved with it, you could never even anticipated that.
So, yes and no. So, to give you a bit of background about sort of my past life, if you like, I came from a performing arts and a production management background. So I did a lot of events.
It all makes sense.
There we go.
So I've done a lot of kind of stage design setups, like stuff like that in my past, not to the scale I'm doing it at the moment, but more kind of, I understand a lot about the tech side of it. So rigging, lighting, desks, all of it. So I can visualize what can be done. What has been difficult with WNBF UK is obviously we started with nothing and I put a large amount of my own personal investment into building this out. And as we've got bigger, obviously we've been able to then utilize that investment to start getting more, upgrades to the shows. Bringing live DJs, changing the lighting rigging, getting venues which are a lot more expensive but way cooler to be in, and that will happen again this year. But some of the difference with this event to some of the things that I've done before, Tom. There's no dress rehearsal for this. There's no rehearsals. Like you go in the morning, as you guys all know, and you've seen me because you've obviously, Josh, you've judged. I am running around like checking everything to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And you go off with the premise of, okay, it will be okay on the day. There's no forecasting for any potential disaster. You just go with the best plan you possibly have and the setup that works. And obviously we've got a well-oiled machine now. And then the problems, as you mentioned earlier, are good problems to have, where we have maybe more volume of athletes, or I'll spot something like I've already spotted a few things at Supernaturals from last year and gone, I want to change that. I didn't like that. Now, most people will probably not notice it, but I'm thinking about how can I make this just level up again for the following year. So it's been a real learning curve for me and I love every second of it, but I've definitely been able to bring a lot of my past experience into it. That's helped for sure. Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned the level up in terms of venue this year for the Supernaturals. Are there any other things coming in 2025 for the WNBF UK that you can tell us about?
So I can't be absolutely majorly specific, but there will be some great visual changes. I'll put it that way. So I'll leave it kind of hanging there, but there'll be some really cool visual changes. Yeah.
I really hope that's unless it's not this, then I don't hope it at all. I hope it's a big screen like the UAE. And if it's not that, Steff, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's a big old thing to wheel into the Grove, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
logistically,
I think they've actually got them all sort of set in there, but yeah, there will definitely be visual changes. Definitely visual changes.
Right,
obviously, I love setting the tone with the live music last year. That was something I was mega excited about. So I'll be doing a little bit more variety with that, which I'm quite looking forward to.
Live orchestra, it's Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer, time. Get it going.
That would be insane, by the way.
Full ideas. I'm telling you.
Oh, Tom, Your idea is terrible,
Right.
mate.
How many months is it until the Supernaturals?
You are not learning how to play the cello.
I am. I've got time. Got time.
Oh dear.
Well, I mean, I hate to burst the bubble, but it's not Hans Zimmer.
God. It's all right. I'll bring it.
I love Hans Zimmer, but maybe not for a bodybuilding show. Although I'm sure you could probably do something kind of quirky somewhere.
Yeah. The WNBF have announced that Classic will be making its way into shows. How's that going to work? Because obviously you've done the golden era round for quite a while now. Did that come in the first year or?
Yeah, we started with that, and that was kind of really. We love the Classic look, like, and obviously being a posing coach and doing a lot of this with my own clients as well. And I think one of one of the things I love about natural bodybuilding is the blend of the aesthetic, like the athletic side of obviously your training endeavors and what we're doing to get shredded, and then the beauty of the aesthetic and performing with your body as well. So the Classic sort of look, we wanted to pay homage to with the golden era round. So first of all, I am so excited about having Classic Physique brought in. That's been really cool for us. I do believe natural bodybuilding is classic bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I think, this is something I've banged on about for the whole entire duration of the inception of WNBF UK. And I still stand by that. But I think it has its place here to be able to show like the actual aesthetic flow that for those athletes, for those bodybuilders that are really good at that. And I've got quite a few in my mind that I can think of that have that beautiful X-frame, tiny little waist, really broad shoulders, capped looks, sweeping quads. It's going to be a really interesting category, and we're just sorting out the criteria for it at the moment, but the likelihood of it being a weight height cap is pretty likely, and obviously then huge emphasis on shape and on the posing, the flow. So there'll be a lot of specifics around that, but making sure that what we want to do with Classic Physique is making sure that it doesn't just become a class where all the bodybuilders just jump in to Classic Physique. It's got to have some defined limits, and it's got to be clear for that division to work. So where Golden Era will transform is obviously we take that concept, but just now put it into a proper criteria. And our Golden Era Champion Overall Award now becomes an official Overall Classic Bodybuilding Champion Award or Classic Physique Champion Award. Yeah. So we were kind of on the cusp of that anyway. Now it's making it official.
Yeah. I was that one of the questions that I've got is would the Classic Physique Champion end up in the bodybuilding overall, or would it have its own overall title?
So depending on the numbers and depending on obviously how the height to weight ratios go, if we have more than one class, then yes, they would have their own overall, a bit like what I sort of did last year where I introduced a junior overall, because there was enough athletes with teens, junior. We had 2 junior classes and a teen class, and we just thought, this is natural bodybuilding, these are the lifeblood, like let's give them their own overall, let's really make this something that they can be chasing for. So a bit like that, if we have the opportunity with the number of athletes in the classes, yes, it will have its own overall. If it doesn't, we will still have a classic bodybuilding or Classic Physique overall champion. They just wouldn't have competed necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So juniors, you've kind of mentioned it. Is there going to be any additional classes this year when it comes to the juniors? For example, maybe junior men's physique?
Yeah, so I've been really thinking about this really long and hard, because I know that you and I, Josh, have spoken about this at length as well. I would really like that to happen at the Supernaturals this year. So I am pretty much 90% there. I just need to make sure that we deliver the message early enough to get the amount of numbers. And it's actually much more, I feel much more capable of doing it because it'd be over a 2-day event.
Yeah.
Adding more classes for the sake of adding more classes adds a lot more time onto your show. And if it's, if it's a 1-day event, that can be extremely detrimental to the timing of a show. Mm-hmm. I even added junior bikini last year. So yes, we're nearly there. It just has to fit into obviously the overall picture for managing the athletes on the days.
Great news.
That's exciting.
90% for me is great, because the first time that I ever brought that up in any conversation, I got shot down by somebody. So yeah, well, that feels like a win. So all the listeners, that's for you. That's for you junior
All you
men's
young
physique
guns.
competitors.
Yeah, and but you know the thing is like the way I love to run this is listening to all of you guys as well. And I had a really good conversation with, oh gosh, Lee J, Mr. Motivator, I think his name is on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
About weight caps way back to mirror, because we've brought in weight caps as well for the bodybuilding, of course, this year. And he was like, you know, we're going to Worlds and it's obviously the weight categories at Worlds. Do you think UK will ever change it? And it opened up I had in my mind a shift to weight caps at some point. There is benefits to the heights too, but obviously weight caps is traditional and everyone knows it. And my key concern with that was worrying about what athletes do, because athletes do stupid things to try and make weight.
Yeah.
And my first and foremost concern is always the health of the athlete. So anyway, I listened to him, I listened to a few others, and this year I even had a conversation with Rob Brown way back about this, and we decided, right, now's the time to shift to weight categories as well. So listening to you guys, listening to people that are doing the shows, listening to, you know, the landscape and how things are moving is what makes us better, I believe, rather than just having a rigid mindset. We're doing it this way and know it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hopefully that gives some sort of view on decision making.
Yeah. No, I like it. Tom, have you got any more questions? I have loads, but
Okay.
Just on the weight caps. So, what classes? Sorry, could you clarify? Would they be applied to, or is it across the board?
Open bodybuilding. So all
Just
the open
open
bodybuilding. And then if we do split juniors again, we'll probably do it in the juniors as well.
Cool.
Yep.
very nice. Right. So, Steff, one thing that I used to love about the UK DFBA that is no longer a thing is regional shows. Obviously, with the numbers that the WNBF get, well, year on year, and it obviously is growing. Do you see a opportunity or chance in the future to bring back regional shows, or do you think they're done and dusted, kippers and custard for forever now?
Well, I mean, a kind of example of this, we started with one, right? And then we went to the first, we created the concept for the natural side of the sport, first timers and novice together. So we went for two. And my whole thing has been about making a great show with great energy, with great athletes, with high standards and high competitiveness, and make them so good, rather than having a lot of little shows that, you know, yes, everyone's filtering into a British finals, but they don't have the same energy. And I think what was really interesting was it 2 years into doing this? UK DFBA actually changed their whole model to fit the exact same model that we were using.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it is, you've got to look at your demographic, you've got to look at the volume of athletes coming in, and you've also got to make this financially viable. So from a business standpoint, having a lot of venues and a lot of smaller shows didn't make any sense for us just starting. Where we are now at year 5, would there be an opportunity to bring in more shows? Yes, but I wouldn't probably do the traditional method of regionals. I think we've come past that. I think more kind of, this is my own opinion, but I think having the more standalone specific event, like a first timers or a novice or a supernaturals, or maybe a slightly rebranded event that fits into what we're doing, that can have incentive to come to, say, a finals where you get the chance to have a world qualifier or have the opportunity to turn pro, is a much more interesting way of doing it than you have to compete here to get here. I just think that's too restrictive now. So that's kind of some of my thoughts at this time. But are we bringing in regionals? No, that's not on the cards at the moment.
It's interesting because from like regional shows, sometimes what I've seen is when you actually get to the finals, because it's the end of the year, a lot of people have pulled out. Like sometimes the actual standard of the athlete for a finals isn't as good as what you'd actually expect it to be. Because a lot of people have either, you know, given up on their seasons, or maybe, for instance, just, you know, whatever else has happened, and it's actually like filtered it down, versus if you have that open show at the end of the year, everyone wants to do it, especially if it's like, you know, it's going to be an awesome show. Like everyone kind of holds out and times things right for that show, and the standard just appears to be, from my experience anyway, a lot better.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree with you. And I think like an open show is that it's an open show. I think, you know, for such a long time, you guys have probably experienced it. I talk about it quite openly. There's a lot of politics in the sport. And for a long time, like even when I was competing, if you were going through the ranks of the regionals, and then it's almost like it was expected of you to decide which finals you were going to do. And I cannot stand that mindset. I never gelled with it, you know, back then. I don't gel with it now. And I think giving the natural athlete as many opportunities to step on whatever natural stages they want to step on and really excel. And if I can, you know, provide what I believe is the leading natural stage for that pathway to WNBF status and do it as well as I possibly can, great. But I'm not going to be upset if any other natural athlete goes and does any other event. In fact, I think it's important to get as much experience as a natural athlete as you possibly can. So I think like some of the pressure is taken off with an open show for athletes to think, I can just do it and not be worried about what any other natural federation or any other federation thinks. But I do think that sort of mindset is being shifted away from quite considerably now, which is great. I'm
really glad that you said that, because last time I competed, 2023, I competed with the PCA before doing any kind of WNBF show, and some kind of account on Instagram commented on a PCA reel of me competing. I think it was called the Masturbate or something like that. They commented on it, tagging the WNBF, saying how, like, what is your golden boy doing on another stage, or like words to the effect of that. And I just thought, what a silly, narrow mind that is, to think that you can only compete with one federation. Like, as a natural, you want to be on as many stages as possible to, you know, boost natural bodybuilding. You don't promote natural bodybuilding by not competing.
No, and at no point did you ever sign something saying I cannot do another show. You know, at no point is that like something that should be expected of you. And in my opinion, if any kind of federation, president, influencer, whoever it is, puts a pressure on you that you have to do one show and almost kind of fearmonger you with, I don't know, tactics of trying to put down another federation or somebody else, or, you know, all the stuff that goes on that's just, excuse my French, but bullshit, quite frankly. Yeah. You know, if anyone does that, I would be running a mile. Do your thing, compete where you want to compete. If you love the show and you like what the federation stands for and you like what they're doing, then great, you know, compete with them. If it aligns with your morals and values, compete with them. But please don't be fearmongered like by other people or stuff like that. Like, I've seen it as well. It's just like crazy. Yeah,
mind blowing.
Such a small mindset, isn't it?
It is, and it's unfortunate. Like, you know, I suppose with any kind of sport, I'm sure all this stuff like goes on even in like Olympic sport. You know, it's like, and because this industry is so unregulated as well. You know, we've just got people online now who can just have a page like Masturbate and have a little bit of a conversation or a comment on XYZ. And well, there's no regulatory body. There's nobody saying, hey, hang on a sec. Like, that's ridiculous. It's just people see it and then they're like, oh, that's a bit embarrassing, or oh, like, what does that mean for this person? And it just creates a whole load of nonsense that really doesn't need to be there. And it's unfortunately, you know, for me, it's a bit of a low level part of the sport that I try to change very hard by being open with as many people as possible and talking about all sides of this from a competitor standpoint and now a promoter standpoint as well.
Yeah. I think you should make a page, Steff, and call it like the mass conversation or something.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, the mass conversation. Right. So regulatory bodies, governing bodies. It's quite a talking point at the minute in natural bodybuilding, with the DFBA appearing this year. Do you have any thoughts and feelings on it? Do you think it's going to, you know, be beneficial to the sport? Can you see it working?
So it took me a really long time to figure out what on earth it was to begin with. And that's just me being quite frank on it. I think the intent is there for there to be a kind of a democratic board of made up of people that all have a good intent for the sport. I think it's a really good idea in principle, but where I think the naivety is that there is fracturedness amongst so many of the federations that need to heal and repair or grow with the times. And I think there's a bit of work that has to be done there first, which, I'm trying to play a positive role in, and I know a lot of other promoters are trying to do that too, to then get to that point. I think we're not there yet. And I think forcing it on now, but even the kind of, the people who are making this up, I believe have really good intent for the sport. I really do. But, who enlisted them to decide on who the democratic board is that then not just the same thing as what we're doing now, where people have just been picked from, there's no real synergy between everything else. To me, it also looks like it's actually a show at a federation rather than a governing body. So I think there needs to be a bit more communication with all of us, the community, as to what that is. And have conversations been had? I think I listened to them say, like, we're having a lot of conversations, we're talking to a lot of promoters, we're talking to a lot of federations. Well, I certainly have not heard any of those conversations being had internally with the WNBF in any way yet. So that would be nice to sort of see how that goes out. Do I think it's negative? No, but I don't know if the timing's right. And I think something like that has to be done very tentatively and having had a hell of a lot more conversations before even this point.
Yeah.
So, does
I thought that, like, to get to the point of, yes, we are a public thing, and yes, we're going to be on podcasts and talk to everyone, there needed to be so much more done in the background before getting, to this, like, yes, this is what our aim is, and yes, we would like to have a show and a unified judging criteria. There's not been enough done in the background to have any kind of, real credibility. And
and what happens is you risk the people deciding on the democratic system already having had relationships and biases that are already set, to then feel like they have the momentum to go with this. Yet, have there been a lot of the relationship building on with other promoters or other people? I'm not sure about that. So if you're going to come off the offset saying this is a democratic, it's very balanced, we've got a lot of people on side and we are making the move to do this, then I think you need to present the evidence of what you've done beforehand so the community has buy-in to this new concept. So I think, I completely agree. I think there needs to be a lot more work there, not to say that it's not a good idea. To give you an example, by the way, within the WNBF, we all have all our affiliates. We all work quite similarly, but there are a couple of the affiliates, particularly Italy, that they have a democratic system within their affiliate. So they have several key people within the affiliate who each have a specific designated role, and they stick to that role within it. And they all work together in this collaborative way to deliver the WNBF Italy events. And that's a very different system, but it works beautifully for them. Mm-hmm. But what they've got in that is trust. They all know each other. They've built a very, very good understanding of like what they're collectively doing. And it does work. And I know this is something I spoke with Eric Helms on his podcast about at length, is wouldn't it be great if we had, a democratic sort of league table system of all the natural bodybuilding federations and who's done what and where, and, being able to look back 10 years of shows and look at the kind of, what's gone on. And I think those ideas are great, but you need a lot of time to get it to that point. Yeah. So that's some of my thoughts on that. Yeah.
That's cool. What do you think? Me and Josh have actually spoke about this a couple of times. In terms of like the WNBF Worlds, for instance, what do you think of having more of like each kind of country or affiliate, like a league table? Right,
yeah,
so it's a bit like the Olympics, like, depending on like how many UK competitors placed first, second, third, like whatever it is, building up a score system and then having some kind of awards for that. I feel like that's a good way to like almost unite that worldwide WNBF community even more.
Yeah, it's like how many wins have you had in 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, like
Yeah.
for each country, and then it creates that kind of competitiveness between countries when you get there as well, which
Yeah,
is
because
good.
the way I see it, like when you're getting all the UK team, you look like an Olympic team. Like that's one thing that I respect about you and like what you're doing with the UK is like you've got all like the jackets on and stuff like that. You know, it looks like a team, like an Olympic team. But then everyone goes over there and competes individually almost.
Yeah, I know.
So it's
And
like,
I know what you
yeah,
mean. No, I mean, I think it's a really great idea. It's actually one we're talking about internally. So, you know, the league table system, the putting, you know, the numbers on the board. Like, I've got so many creative ideas in my head of how that could work at Worlds. And again, it's a concept that needs a little bit more development. But these sorts of ideas are things that we're talking about. And I think, you know, even just the websites having the results clearly shown so that we can, you know, UK is so strong. We had a great year 24. Actually, we've had a great few years at Worlds. Spain are always really good. Germany are always really good. You know, like it'd be really good to sort of see how they're all pitched up and have a sense of like, right, we've got to go over and beat this country or, you know, that kind of vibe. So yeah, I agree. I think these are really cool conversations and certainly developments that I hope we'll see come to fruition. Yeah.
Nice.
that's cool.
The route to the world is, in my eyes, it's always been quite a straightforward process. This year, with the addition of the Galaxy, will the route to the worlds change at all, or like how does qualification for the Galaxy work? What's the crack with it?
So the Galaxy is an additional it's an independent international show. It's just a big show with a big cash prize and a very like exciting kind of prospect for a lot of athletes to come from Asia, you know, Europe, wherever really. But what the Galaxy is really a clear feeder show into Worlds with a lot of the prizes and the opportunities at that event to have full funded access to Worlds. So that's going to be a pretty good one to go to if you're wanting to like get everything paid for, essentially, to go to Worlds. And that's something that I would encourage a lot of people to do. From a point of view of how do you get there, it's a qualification at any show across the affiliates. Once you do a show, you have to then, depending on your affiliate, for example, if it's UK, if you guys did Supernaturals, for example, and you said, Steph, hey, I want to go to Galaxy, you just need my permission, that's it. And then you can go. You know, you don't have to have placed first, you don't have to have placed fifth. It's just doing the event. And then I'm talking for my affiliate here, is doing the event, getting my permission, and off you go to the Galaxy to have that opportunity to stand on that stage. Yeah.
If you stepped on a first timer stage, would you automatically qualify for the Galaxy as well?
So again, just by talking with me and making sure that, like, you know, I think that this person it would be a reasonably good experience for them to go over and do it. Because the last thing, you know, I'm quite honest, I'm quite open about this. You know, if I felt like an athlete was going to spend a lot of money to go across to the Galaxy, and I would want to understand what their motivation was. If it was like, for example, if it was like, I've got family over there and I want to compete and it's a great opportunity. Yeah, hell yeah. Like, go and enjoy it. If it was somebody who was like, oh, I really want to win, but I think that they're probably quite a long way off that yet, I'd probably recommend that they continue to do more shows on their home soil before they go and make that investment to do it. So it's a case-by-case situation, and this is the same with any international show, any international show. We do have international rules, which are important, but the Galaxy is like this big celebration of natural bodybuilding. It's about time, you know, like we have an offering as well that can really rival some of these big events on the open side of the sport too. And it's a platform and a springboard to the pinnacle of our whole sport, the WNBF Worlds, with potentially great like incentive to do that if you manage to do very well on stage. So yeah.
What do you think about it being called the Galaxy though? The World's being the world, but the Galaxy is bigger than the world in like the actual grand scheme of things, isn't it?
Yeah, the size
controversial name. That's
yeah, I mean, you'd have to probably ask the guys that did the inception of that one to answer that.
Who did the inception?
So we had some of our Asian affiliates come together, and now there's a collective of us that are now all working on it together to really push it forward. But it essentially, you know, to give you guys a bit of a bigger picture, natural bodybuilding in Asia is absolutely humongous. But I don't just mean from like a volume of athlete perspective. The prestige, the support they get from sponsors, it's a huge deal. It's seen as like a very big thing. And honestly, if there's one part of the world that's going to propel natural bodybuilding forward, I really do believe it's going to be Asia. And so there's like a huge amount going on over there for the benefit of the sport. And it's important, when I'm thinking about the avenues for UK athletes and where we can go, really showing that we've got an opportunity for you guys and for anybody in the UK to get over there and start standing on these stages where sponsorship deals, big things are happening that are going to be great for natural bodybuilders' careers is super exciting for me. So I'm so passionate about what the guys are doing, and I've suggested to them that I help them with as many different things that I possibly can, and I will be a fundamental part of helping that come to fruition as well. So there's like a lot going on, and it's really exciting. But the Galaxy with the name, I don't know if the guys actually thought about that, Tom. I think they'll have to have a chat with you about that one. But
yeah,
it's not here to in any way encroach on Worlds. It's here to be a support to the global affiliates and to the world stage. And the thing is some of the affiliates have more capital to do it. And Asia, where they have a lot bigger influx of, as I say, sponsors, money, athletes, they're able to do it. So it's only right that WNBF offers these events within where they can. And that's sort of like how this has all come about. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have like aliens taking part then. It sounds like an open invitation for like outer,
planets.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh dear. Right, if you was an amateur, right, say you placed third at the British, right, and you'd saved up £1,500 to go and compete internationally, would you rather compete at the Galaxy or at the Worlds?
That's a hard one.
It is a hard one. It's one of the questions that I've got. Shout out to Ian Talbot Balfe.
That's a good question.
I know, and it weren't rude.
To be honest, like they offer very different things, so it's quite difficult for me to answer that. Pros have huge opportunities at the Galaxy because they've got great potential prizes as well. But the pros also have huge accolade and prestige at Worlds, and I would argue even more so because somebody wants to become that world champion. That means everything to an actual athlete, and I don't think anything could possibly ever trump that, quite frankly. Not any event. So it's not a straightforward answer for me, I'm afraid. It's a bit of a, what would my motivation be at the time as an athlete? Have I already become a pro and I know roughly where I am in terms of the standard, therefore I make a decision based on, I'd like to go and try and win this because I might not be world champion? Because let's be honest, you've got to think realistically about where you're at.
Yeah.
Or is it I am gunning and putting everything I possibly can into my basket to become world champion? And if that's the case, then that's your goal. So it's not a yes, it's not a no. It's just you got to think clearly when you're at that level what you want to do. Yeah.
Right. Tom, same question goes to you. You are an amateur boy.
Yep.
If you had £1,500, which show would you choose, Galaxy or the Worlds?
Worlds, because I think I honestly don't feel like the majority of pro athletes right now at this point where the sport is at are going to compete thinking they're getting massive paydays. I think it is for the passion of the sport, realistically. So for myself, it would be the Worlds.
Yeah. There is no feeling quite like winning that world title.
Well, you've done it, Josh. You know how that feels.
It's truly life-changing.
And do you know what? To see it, to see the expression, and to see, because we know how hard it is to get a WNBF Pro card. We know how hard it is to stand on a world champion on a world stage full of pros who are all in absolute unreal condition. Winning that is, that's something no one can take away from you. It really is. And I just don't think anything would trump it. And that's why, with the Galaxy event, don't get me wrong, this is going to be mega. The amount that's going into this will be something else. Like, it's going to be a show that will go down as history as the first of its kind. There's no doubt about that. It's a feeder show to our world stage, which we all, as affiliates, hold as the top of the tree.
Yeah.
And we support their vision, like I very much do as well, with all of the vision for the affiliates to, you know, feed into what is essentially the pinnacle of our sport. And that's the way it should be. And having that level of respect is very important as well within the federation. So yeah, it's a very exciting opportunity for us all, and it'll be a great addition to the international global events. And it's really going to show a lot of people, especially from over kind of Europe and our side, what kind of opportunity and what sort of experience they'll have in Asia, which I'd love more people to see. I've had the opportunity to see it. Obviously, I've judged and I'm doing a lot over there. It's crazy. It's insane. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, God. It's
Josh,
so tempting. I know. I think Steff's actually sold it to me. Definitely weren't the $100,000 prize pot. That's minor.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing as well, is I do think, and Tom, you touched on like a pretty vital thing there. Like for all of us, I think it's mainly passion before any kind of monetary incentive. And I think, you know, as natural bodybuilding is growing, there is this expectation to add more and more and more into prize pots and prizes. But really, and something I love about the WNBF Worlds and is the simplicity of natural bodybuilding done on the highest level like you can possibly see, and the athletes speak for themselves. Sometimes all the bells and whistles and stuff really doesn't matter when you're looking at, you know, a Babacar going up against an Oscar, for example, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like how do I get like that? Nobody cares about the other stuff at that point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Like people are looking at that going, how do I look as good as that? How can I get to that? Like that's crazy inspiring. And for anybody like that looks at it from the outside, you just can't get a feel for it until you actually see it in the flesh, like this stuff. And same with men's physique. The men's physique pros at worlds level, like it's so difficult to judge. I can't even tell you. It's the hardest thing to do. Everyone is shredded. You're looking at the minor details, the flickers of the vascularity across the abs, the split in the calves, like the grooming has to be impeccable. Everything has to be insane. So yeah, it's the top of our sport for a reason. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like with the Olympia, for instance. You've got shows now like in the Middle East or like with the Arnolds that are like putting up pretty much not comparable, but like very, very close prize pots. And there probably will be over the next few years people that just match the Olympia in terms of like the monetary gain from it. But it's still the Olympia.
Yeah.
You know, it's still the Olympia. No, winning an Arnold's is absolutely insane, but it's not an Olympia.
I think titles are there's something. Money you'll spend, titles, they're stuck with you forever. Like my first proper title was a junior UKDFBA British title, and then won the WNBF British overall and my pro card. For me, the only title left on that like little 3-piece is the pro men's physique title in Britain, of course.
Got to get shredded for September now, Josh.
The Galaxy.
Yeah, and then there's the Galaxy, and then go back to Germany and get Redemption.
Yes.
Oh, that is not happening. I am not going to Germany ever again.
You need to
Done
come
with
back
it.
here, mate. You can't.
No, mate.
Beers and securities like that, mate. Get over there.
The show is on a bank holiday weekend. Nothing is open. I'm not going.
You're not doing it.
Wow. No. I'm going to try. Do you know what, Steff?
I think
quite like being at home. What's that?
I think you're being weak there. I think you can go back and
You're
do
not
that.
worthy to pick up Thor's hammer. Come on.
I don't. Thor can have his hammer. Right? I'm going to go for a British Pro Champion title and maybe go to the Galaxy. We'll see.
What's the trophy going to be like for the Galaxy?
Chocolate bar.
Huh?
Chocolate bar.
UFO.
Chocolate bar. Yeah.
UFO.
That'd be cool.
Oh.
Tom, you're full of ideas. I expect some like brainstorming and my inbox full of ideas by the end of this podcast on the trophies.
If you're short of ideas, shoot me a DM. It's all good.
Steff, I actually have a question on that. Right.
Okay.
Medals are beautiful, but I don't sit and look at my medals all day. I look at my trophies. can you bring them back to the WNBF UK?
So I think you're either a trophies person or a medals person, right? And I know you've got your trophies. I know. And I think like it's something to think about. I personally love a good chunky, heavy weighted medal. I love it. I like the look of them. I think they're just a wee bit different. And you know, a lot of people will take them and frame them and do a lot of different things with them. Never say never with the trophies, but I've always preferred the medals. So if you want to change my mind on that, you can.
I have a favourite word, and it is both. If you can do both, do both.
Do you want to give me another, you know, chunk of investment, and I'll see what I can do?
So, what, for one trophy for the first place winner? I reckon that's doable.
Me and Josh will fund it if the men's
you guys should
trophy...
board shorts and banter. I'll get some medals with board shorts and banter coming at the events.
Steph, that's an announcement for later on in the year, bro.
The men's physique
you can cut that bit out.
trophy is me and Josh, and we'll fund it.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just Josh, not me, because I'm not good enough yet. Maybe it's just Josh.
Gosh. You have a deal. I know the trophy. I've got a trophy man in my head. I've got great contact, so I can have something designed within 2 seconds.
Great, as long as it's not like the BNBF, we're in.
No, they'll be different to BNBFs.
Oh dear, what's she called? Vicky. Sorry, Vicky. I know that you listen to our podcast as well because you love men's physique, but yeah, not very nice trophies.
So take it you don't like those ones then.
Awful. Tom, have you got any more questions? I am done. Trophies was my last one.
The only other question I had, I don't know if we've kind of like addressed it though. Like, so if you could do one thing, what do you feel like is the one thing that is missing across the board from natural bodybuilding that is like bottlenecking it? So what would you do to like help take it to the next level? But I don't know if we've just kind of like generally answered it though.
I can't answer it. More collaboration.
Yeah.
More collaboration. Less pain about pastimes and personal issues, and a lot more sharing of drug testing and sharing of how do we make the natural community better for our UK natural athletes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was able to be done and more of those conversations could be had, and I think actually some of them are happening because, you know, we're having moves in the right direction with, and I'm probably part of this as well, but younger promoters, newer promoters, fresher kind of mindset, and taking a blend and respect of the older thinking and bringing us in with this sort of newer thinking and working together on that, rather than having a mindset of how dare they do this over here, or how, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not explaining that very well, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. I think just a bit more collaboration is probably very healthy and very good for the sport, and showing the community that we're actually all working together for it. Yeah.
I
like
completely agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right, Josh, do we have any more questions?
No, I think this has been an absolutely wonderful podcast. Steff, you have answered every single question magnificently, and I'm sure if anybody has any more questions, they'll be putting them in the comment section on YouTube. So, yeah, very happy.
Awesome. Happy to answer anything, and really great to chat. Thank you for having me on.
Lovely. I appreciate your time. Right, so on that note, Steff, where can people find you?
So, if you want to come and check out all of the cool stuff we're doing on Instagram, it's WNBF_UK. You can check us out on TikTok, WNBF UK as well. You can check us out on the website, WNBFUK.com. All the information about signing up and doing all of the stuff for WNBF UK is there. Find that. If you want to come and have a wee chat with me, it's Steff with _Noble_figure pro. So you can come find me there on Instagram.
Lovely Beautiful stuff. Cool. I think that's everything, Josh, right?
Yeah, that is all.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. This is episode 90. We are closing in on episode 100, and I have already lined up the 100th episode guest. Yeah.
Wow.
It's big. It's big. Right. So we'll see you in the next one. Stay blessed. Like and subscribe. Ciao. Arrivederci.
Thank you, people. Bye bye.
Cheers.